topic. The Commission on Race and Ethnic Disparities report, which was published last week, I think. Is that right, Kindred?
It was.
Mhm.
Oh, and you wanted us to discuss this. Why you?
When this came out, I admit, and I wasn't angry, and I'm still not angry. What I feel is a genuine sense of curiosity and mystery as to where these people live.
As we have alluded to in other episodes of this program, that would have suited Boris and his government down to the ground when they said, well, it wasn't us that said it would. It was one of you. Oh. I rest my case.
So, no, I mean, well, first of all, I will let me give praise to Doreen Lawrence. I think who put it quite succinctly in saying that the report gives racists the green light.
Mm-hmm.
Organize, sit down, reason and talk.
It's that time again for another ORT. This time, the panelists and I put our intellect, hope, and resilience to the test as we discuss the Commission report into racial disparity in the United Kingdom.
Greetings, Brother S. How are you doing? How are the family?
I'm good, Sister Ebony. I'm good, Sister Ebony. Everybody's good. And give thanks. I give thanks. And yourself?
I'm good, and I'm giving thanks. Ever grateful. Fine, thank you.
Good. I'm glad to hear it.
Greetings all. We've got
Yeah,
full
voice.
house.
Hey, man. Yeah, man.
Sister
We're all
Kindred,
in the house.
how are you,
Greetings,
Sister Kindred?
Kindred. Greetings, my sister.
Oh, greetings, Ebony.
Mhm.
You're all sounding in good voice.
Yes, yes.
So, yes, man. Aquaba to another ORT, the show of love, light, and laughter with our resident panelists. Ebony Harmony, the voice of compassion.
Greetings. Greetings, all.
Our king of one-liners, Brother Hess.
Greetings, greetings all.
And our eye of analysis, Kindred Spirit.
Greetings from me.
And I'm Baba Kosh, your host. We will be talking about today leadership, black leadership in particular, through the eyes of the report that was undertaken by Tony Sewell et al. But before that, we will have our quiz. And in relation to the last quiz, which was, which prominent black actress turned down the role of Monsters Ball?
Easy peasy.
Go ahead. Who was it then?
It was Angela Bassett.
Oh, my dear. You see? You know how many years him want to tell people, say Angela Bassett turned down? And he always finally got the time. So, yes. So, the prize goes to Miriam, who has a young son by the name of Umar in West London, and they'll be getting the book that we had.
Woo! Well done, Miriam.
The African Plains, which is a sticker book to teach about nature. Have you been planting flowers, any of you, since the last show? Yam?
Unfortunately, not.
Oh,
Not yet. I should
all
say,
right.
not
No, it's
yet.
not. No,
Not
it's
yet.
not.
Well, spent the whole weekend doing the gardening, so yes, indeed.
Yes.
Good on you.
Yes.
What caught your eye since the last show before you go into that? What's caught your eye? Brother S, anything that's caught your eye?
I'm just thinking about it.
Okay. Well, I'm going to mention something that caught my eye, which is a new board game called Melanopoly.
Oh.
Yes, it's like Monopoly, but for African ascendants. It's for us basically, and you can buy property in Lagos or anywhere and the rest of it. So yes, it's out. Apparently they've sold out, so it's quite popular. And that was
look out
released.
for that.
Yes, Melanopoly, that was released last week as well. I'll put some links in the description box.
Yeah.
If anybody wants to try and
Definitely.
source a copy online. Ebony? Ebony?
Yes.
Yes.
Here she is.
Yes. Anything that's caught your eye since the last show?
Have you got your hearing aid in? You know, that old timers.
No, there was no sound coming through. Nobody could hear you.
Okay, so what caught my eye was a story in Ghana. Had two brothers in the 2-week lockdown made good use of their time and turned an old-fashioned ingenuity in their fight against COVID, and they created a water dispenser, solar powered, in 48 hours out of recycled material in their surge to promote sanity and so forth. Actually, it was very clever, you know. So no excuses for being bored in the lockdown, I'd say.
Yes.
Rise them up.
Yes, definitely. Kindred, anything that's caught your eye? It's no problem if it hasn't. I mean, there's so many things to catch people's
so
eyes.
many
Sometimes
things,
you don't see.
nothing, yeah. Too many.
Yes,
Not one that
yes.
I can land on.
Okay, no problem. Brother Hess?
And likewise.
Okay,
You
no
know?
problem. That means next time we come back, it's double bubble. You got to give us two.
For sure.
All
Okay.
right, good. Today we have our quiz, of course, and I know I'm with some of the sharpest minds when it comes on to matters related to melanated people. So, question 1. What is it that black people don't want to touch on white people, but white people often want to touch on black people?
Our hair.
Hair.
Boom, bang, straight up. Oh, you can't just see all the work-based shenanigans going on there. You know, she want to touch me here? Oh, dear. Question 2. Who is the sponsor of the West Indies cricket team? Who is the sponsor? Red Stripe? Why, Ebony? This is somebody in the crowd that will high, you know.
Oh.
They need to drink the beer and not hold their eye.
Not during the game.
No, it's
Is
not
it sandals?
What?
Is it sandals?
Wow, well done. It is indeed sandals.
Come again.
Yes, I imagine. All right. Question 3. What is the name of Viv Richards' cricket ground in Antigua?
Oh my God. No, it is the Viv Richards cricket ground.
No, it's not. It's actually
Isn't it? Stadium, isn't it?
no.
Stadium?
No. Brother Hess was close.
Uh-huh.
The correct and rightful answer is Sir Vivian Richards cricket ground.
Nah, you're out of order.
That's
You're out of order.
That's naughty.
Why you at the boat the man, sir?
No, you're out of order.
Why you at the boat the man, sir?
Give him his dues, Brother S.
Dear.
Oh, well done, brother. It's well done.
Antigua is everything to me.
Antigua is paradise.
Antigua is a chill place.
All the negative things which were said, a lot of folks felt that we were spoiling the game, we were aiming to kill. No, aggression meets aggression, and that's how I look at life. You fight, I'm gonna fight. We had a mission, and a mission that we believed in ourselves, and we believed that we were just as good as anyone, equal for that matter. To see someone of your color representing you at that level gave us as folks upliftment. Having a stadium named after you, it feels good. There's so many people who have done such great things for Antigua and Barbuda. So I'm just rather privileged to have such in my name, and I'm pretty honored.
Question 4. True or false? When visiting a sick person in hospital, a white person may say, "Get well soon." A black person may say, "I know somebody who died recently at the same thing."
Sad truth.
Well, that's not a
isn't
question.
True or false?
It's a sad truth.
No,
Definitely
no.
true.
It is.
You know,
Yeah, the older generation are the best for that.
Wow.
Oh, you look, sir. And you know somebody did that the same thing what they, while they're eating the grapes that they brought for you. So question 5. Recent studies of the Sphinx and the Great Pyramid estimate that it is how old? And you have 3 options. 9,000 years old, and it was previously thought to be 4,500 years old. 9,000 years old, 11,000 years old, or 15,000 years young.
Oh my goodness.
9,000, 11,000, or 15,000 years young.
15.
15. Oh, Josie. Any other offers? Going once, going twice.
The issue for me is how they could be so wrong from 4,500 to 15,000. So I'm not gonna go so far.
Okay.
Right? I'm gonna say 9.
Brother Hess. Everybody, anything you want to throw in the pot? Anything you want, sure?
I'm going to go with Brother S because, from 4,500, I would say 9. I'm going to guess 9.
Okay, so the answer is, for years, Egyptologists and archaeologists have thought that the Great Sphinx of Giza was about 4,500 years old. The relatively new theory is based on what is thought to be precipitation-induced weathering on the upper areas of the Sphinx. Archaeologists supporting the view contended that the last time there was sufficient precipitation in the region to cause a pattern of rainfall erosion on limestone was around 9,000 years ago.
Okay, come on.
Okay, respect.
Come on. Fire.
Brother S is back in the game.
Isa?
All right.
Question
holding up the way for us.
You see? Question 6. What is the population of St. Lucia within 10,000? 190,000, 250,000, or 300,000? Population of St. Lucia.
Did you say 150,000?
190, 250, or 300,000?
190.
190, I'll go with.
250,000.
Oh, you know, St. Lucian people have such slow numbers, man. I want to. Okay. The answer is 183,627.
Oh, wow.
As of about 2-3 days ago. So we've had babies born since then, I would think.
Wow.
With 20,000 vaccinated already for COVID. Question 7. I'm gonna check out your knowledge now of music in the final one before we go to the break. And it's in terms of this report that we'll be talking about, it's made a lot of us furious. Grandmaster Flash and the Furious 5 had a song that could express some of how we feel, how we may feel about this report. Anybody going to take a stop at what that song may be?
Master Flash.
Yeah, it could be the message.
I don't have Dugu Dugu in the answer, but it sounds really good. And the Deggy Deggy. Yes, man.
Yeah. It's like a jungle sometimes. It makes me wonder how you going under.
The message.
Exactamente.
Yes.
You all helped yourself across the line. And Brother S has already given us one of the lines out of it. So yes, man, well done. Round of applause for Uno. Woo! See you on the other side.
All righty.
It's like a jungle sometimes. It makes me wonder how I keep from going under. It's like a jungle sometimes. It makes me wonder how I keep from going under. class. Everywhere, people on the stage, you know they just don't care. I can't take the smell, can't take the noise. Got no money to move out, I guess I got no choice. Rats in the front room, roaches in the back, junkies in the alley with the baseball bat. I tried to get away, but I couldn't get far, cause a man with a tow truck repossessed my car. Don't push me, cause I'm close to the edge. I'm trying not to lose my head. It's like a jungle sometimes, it makes me wonder how I keep from going under. Standing on the front stoop, hanging out the window, watching all the cars go by, roaring as the breezes blow. A crazy lady living in a bag, eating out of garbage pails. Used to be a fag hag, such a dance to tango. Skipped the life and dango, a zircon princess seemed to lost her senses. Down at the peep show, watching all the creeps, so she could tell her stories to the girls back home. She went to the city and got so did it. She had to get a pimp, she couldn't make it on her own. Don't push me, cause I'm close to the edge. I'm trying not to lose my head. It's like a jungle sometimes, it makes me wonder how I keep from going under. It's like a jungle sometimes, it makes me wonder how I keep from going under.
This is ORT.
This is Solomon from Black Child Promotions, one of the UK's best black book distributors. And we operate across London. Our main locations are usually Oxford Circus on Tuesdays or Wednesdays and Brixton Thursday and Friday. Come check us out. You can also check us out on Instagram at Black Child Promotions and Facebook Black Child Space Promotion. Peace, family. This week's recommendation from Black Child Promotions is The Art of Leadership by the legendary ORT Shaka. The search for leadership is in actuality the search for definition and destiny. In a 2-volume work on leadership, Professor ORT Shaka's major contribution is that he laid out some ground rules and some definitions that need to be understood before a leader is chosen or considered. A leader, in the final analysis, is the people's messenger. The ultimate leadership is the collective leadership of the people. This is a very important book when talking about the future of African leadership. Check it out, people.
Stick a pin for listener comments.
We are interested in some views on the race report in Race Disparity that was published last week. What's your view, brother?
Well, to be honest, I think this country's gone through a lot in the last sort of 10 to 20 years. A lot has changed and a lot more needs to be done. Yeah. So, you know, with good people like you lot around, hopefully it'll be done quicker.
Okay, so what would be a good outcome, do you think?
A good outcome, the way police handle people in general.
Okay, yeah.
The way they handle black brothers, you know.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. Take care.
All right.
Just your view, just your view.
Whatever your thoughts are.
In my opinion, Britain's got some hidden racism. Yeah,
but obviously it's not like, it's just the fact that they don't like show it like America does.
Okay.
Yeah, America's explicit with it. Yeah, they don't beat around the bush when it comes to showing you certain hatred, but obviously they have grown up systematically hating black people. But here it's hidden. Yeah, which makes it even worse, you know?
Yeah.
So
real talk. Real talk, man. I give thanks.
ORT, we do it cause we love you.
This show is sponsored by Sunrise Organic Sea Moss, whose purchasing details are in the description below.
Sunrise Organic Sea Moss. Who say I can't drink sunshine?
Now back to the debate. Yeah, are you there, Brother S?
Brother S is here.
Yeah, we're not kick off without, we're not leaving you behind, I hope
okay.
Right, we are here now to discuss a topic that was raised by Kindred. Okay. Very interesting topic. The Commission on Race and Ethnic Disparities report, which was published last week, I think. Is that right, Kindred?
It was.
Oh, and you wanted us to discuss this. Why? No. Yeah, so you wanted us to talk about this.
Well,
Why did it catch you so?
why? Why? Because it's hot on the back of an ORT conversation we had just a few weeks ago, where we
Right?
were examining the fact that we seem to have individuals in our community who seem to be very unaware of the
Mm.
environment that they're living in. And even within, our own families, there seem to be individuals
Okay.
who just don't get it.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
almost like this is the sequel to that conversation. And when this came out, I admit, and I wasn't angry, and I'm still not angry. What I feel is a genuine sense of curiosity and mystery as to where these people live.
Mm. Mm.
Where do they live, and what is it that they are seeing that is not apparent to the rest of us?
Yeah. Yeah. Brother S made us a talk. I think it was on the same show where we were talking about living with family who have different views. And we got round to the point of talking about Condoleezza Rice. And
Of course,
he
yeah.
he he Brother S made a very ambitious statement, which we're gonna try to live up to today. Which is not, we cannot just go around tearing people down who are in the spotlight. So we're going to try to live up to that. Me, personally, I want to try to live up to it because, unlike Kindred, fire did I come out my mouth and I start to read that report. Kindred, I cuss you, I cuss you, I cuss you. I cuss you, I cuss you, and I stop cuss you. Woo, yeah. So yeah, so
So
we're
we're
gonna
gonna
play.
hold it
We're
down.
gonna
We're
play
gonna
the
hold it
ball and
down.
not the man, using a sporting
Yes.
phrase. But go ahead.
Yes.
Yeah. So I welcome people's views then on this.
Okay. So I think in the first instance, what we need to do is not to jump on this like the government did with their agenda of saying, "See, I told you so. There is no institutional racism in the country," and that this survey proves it. Right? We have to put it into perspective and in context, and keeping with it being one survey, not a panacea. It was one survey. I think they did it over a period of 9 months, and they came with their conclusions. They're the ones that pushed it to the forefront in order to support their own argument about the country not being institutionally racist. But I didn't buy into any of that. I've been able to look at this in isolation, independently, and say, well, it means nothing to me. It doesn't prove anything at all because it was one survey. Right? And so that's what I've tried to do in terms of keeping, not being made one way or the other to feel like, oh gosh, that means that all of our Black experiences or the experiences of people of color are all to be denounced, rejected, or dismissed on the back of this one report.
Yeah.
Right? The report would have been done to serve the interests of the people who want to keep racism out of the spotlight.
Yeah.
Right? Sewell never went round with a clipboard asking people in different areas up and down the country. It wasn't him.
Like what ORT does. I mean, we go out there and we ask real people.
Right. But so again, in terms of, we know that surveys can be done, devised in a way to reach the conclusion that the person who sets up the survey wants concluded in their favor.
Yeah, that's not
right.
A possibility.
So we shouldn't be overly alarmed by the fact that this one made us a bit vexed, or made us do a big kiss our teeth at it, because as we have alluded to in other episodes of this program, that would have suited Boris and his government down to the ground when they said, well, it wasn't us that said it, it was one of you. Oh,
Ah,
I
God.
rest my case.
So, but listen, hold on this now. I'm gonna take you back to May the 26th, 2020, the day after George Floyd was publicly murdered by the police. Then we had a number of uprisings across the world, including the United Kingdom. And that's what gave birth to this report. The whole George Floyd uprising that took place. Shouldn't people feel somewhat disappointed to know that this is the final outcome from the recommendations? Notwithstanding what you've said, which is true, that one report is not the end of the world, but they were trying to seize a moment, were they not? And shouldn't we have had something a little bit more robust than what we did receive in the end?
I don't know. I mean, well, first of all, I will let me give praise to Doreen Lawrence. I think who put it quite succinctly in saying that the report gives racists the green light.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think it is summarily dismissed every racist experience of every black person and their lived experience of being a black person in the UK, because it really just wipes that truth away, and speaks to the language of the racist, and as such gives them the green light.
Some of which I've seen on social media, by the way, comment after comment after comment. But go ahead.
Absolutely. I mean, we all know the system is rigged against the minorities. Okay, I just think it's the report is this whole 258-page report is an audacity. And Brother S, I would agree with what you were saying if indeed this was a piece of research. It was in fact. It was in fact or should have been, should I say, an investigation into the racial disparities in the UK.
Mm-hmm.
And a few things came up for me when reading this report. I looked at the representatives and I asked myself, can they represent me and my journey and my lived experience as a black person or black woman in the UK? Yeah, and in short, no, they can't.
So what make you think? What make you think that they can't? Because there's black women on there, there's black men. What makes you think that they can't speak to your narrative?
Because they're just black. They're not Afrocentric. They're not looking at it from the perspective, the cultural perspective. They look at them as a black person. Well, that's just your color. What about your lived experience? What about taking into context, your culture of you living in the UK? It's seemingly taken none of that into context and looked at things like one of the things that popped out for me was the education and training. I mean, the inaccuracies and misrepresentations that were perpetrated in this section alone is unbelievable.
Yeah.
There were spoutings of things like this is the single most emphatic success story of the British ethnic minority, and there's mention of we being allowed to go to university. There's no mention of that you don't belong in the education system, which is perpetrated daily, particularly against young black men. We see them being prepared for prison by being sent to units because seemingly they're not behaving themselves in school, so they're sent to units. And for me, that's a training school for going to prison, and or the other rejection that this non-racist society has waiting for them. But it said that there's the lies and inaccuracies that were being perpetrated is ridiculous. And the education section alone, as I said, it's an insult. It almost makes us feel like you're meant to feel privileged. So we've given you so we can say that a number of black people, the numbers have increased for university and so forth. That I will stand by. What happens when you leave university? How many of us get into employment? And even if those large numbers get into employment, the glass ceiling, I mean, we don't even have a glass ceiling. It's a brick ceiling, isn't it? We'll only ever go so far. And if you have your own cultural identity, you cannot bring that into the workplace and so forth. I mean, I just think the whole report is just an out and out insult.
You
Can I
know,
just, yeah.
Do not hesitate.
Can I just,
I just wanted to make
say
two.
I was fuming.
I just want to make two quick points. One is in relation to you saying that they are just black people. This is what we as black people ask for. We ask for black
Did
people.
we?
We don't ask for anything beyond the color, you know. We don't
Did
ask for
we?
somebody's mindset. We don't really dig down into somebody's track record. We said we want more black people on TV. We want more black, and you know what? They gave us what we asked for. And the other point is, the other point I just want to make quickly was, if if they did have the track record, what you are suggesting, there are question marks as to whether they would be commissioned by the
In the
commissioners.
first place.
But this
In the
is my whole
first
point.
place.
Well, this is my whole point. Yeah, that. Thank you for sealing my point. It's exactly that.
Kindred, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, it's just picking up on Ebony's point about, yes, that's all very well. There's access to higher education, but what then happens when you leave?
Sorry, Kindred,
when
I
you
just
graduate?
I wanted to say to that what celebrating more black people in university is something for the university to celebrate because they're getting the money. So all we're doing is we're going in there and spending more of our money. So I wouldn't say it's a win-win.
No. Well, my point was going to be that because there is this huge focus on access, right? It blinds people to what happens once that access has been achieved. What is the lived experience of our people in these institutions? You might get 100 going through the door, but if after a year there's only 5 left, there's something toxic in that system.
Absolutely.
Now, about 4 years ago, I went to an event down on the South Bank by 2 young sisters. It was a book signing and a question and answer session by 2 young sisters who had written a book called Slay in Your Lane. I don't know if you've heard of it.
Yes.
And they were documenting their experiences at university in this country. 2 young sisters of African origin, born and raised here, high aspirations in their family, and they did well. Off they went to university. And this was not back in the 60s or 70s or the 80s. This is now. They think they only graduated 2013, 2014, something like that. And they spoke to their fellow students and people who had been before them and graduated. And what they were documenting, and they spoke to high profile figures like Dawn Butler, MPs, celebrities about their experiences, not just of university, but of then going into the corporate world. And what these 2 sisters have documented about university life is actually very disturbing. And we're not just talking about these universities out in the sticks. Some of the London institutions do not come out of it very well either, and in the big metropolitan areas in terms of what Black students are subjected to and what happens to them when they make formal complaints. And it's not just the students, the few Black faculty members, the undermining of them, the questioning of their credentials and their qualifications, the belittling of them. The environment is not conducive to a healthy educational experience. And if you don't have a cast iron support system, which is how these 2 sisters met, because they were both reaching out to try and find some way just to survive in there, then the dropout rate is very high.
Yeah.
So if you're recruiting but you can't retain, there's something very, very wrong.
Yeah. The book Slay in Your Lane, otherwise known as the Black Girl Bible.
Yeah, that's the one.
Written by Elizabeth Uvi Benini and Yomi Adekoke. And it illustrates from education to work to dating. This inspirational, honest and provocative book recognizes and celebrates the strides Black women have already made while providing practical advice for those who want to do the same and forge a better visible future. So that's here in my house. I take your point as regards the the lived experience of those shared in that book, and they also asked of some celebrities and some other just regular people's experiences of that too, that make the composition of the book a really good read. But I think in relation to that report, disappointed. I can be disappointed only if I am surprised by the outcome. I'm not disappointed at all. I think that's part of this thing about keeping things in context, right? Had this, it's not like we were holding our breath on this report. And if we were, I would say that, we were not being very smart. And then when it comes out and then we get the conclusion of it, that was one morning's viewing, and then I went, okay, fine. So that's what they've arrived at, and there were people that looked like me on BBC One and ITV and Channel 4, and for that morning, because it would have been front page news. And as I said, to feed the agenda of those that felt that they were going to use the outcome of the report to feed their own narrative, it did its job. But for me, as your regular Joe Snow black person in the community, I'm looking at it like, how can I be disappointed when I never believed in the report in the first place?
Yeah, no.
Yeah,
I see that.
Yeah, it was never going to conclude in a way which was going to make us look good. Right?
Yeah.
It was only for them, the overseers in their mindset, to feed their own argument and to support their own argument. So now, as both the sisters have alluded to, this has given us the racist the green light, and they're like, that's the only people who would have seen, like, yeah, look, you see, we're not racist, we're not racialist. Some of my best friends.
Brother S, do we not have to take some responsibility to some extent in regards to enabling this type of report to take place and to exist?
No.
Let me finish. Because if we continue to have the attitude whereby, okay, we knew it was going to be that, and we're not surprised, etc., and okay, then we go on our merry way, we allow this to exist as it is, okay, and it feeds the masses. It then contributes to whatever school want to draw from it to educate or miseducate our children and miseducate other children with regards to there not being any racism. Although, don't we take some responsibility with regards to our lack of response to it?
No, and I'll tell you why. Because if we're concerned about enabling them, then we make our own report, right?
With who?
What do you mean with who? We have the capacity to do the same type of research over the same period of time, speaking to real people, and phrasing our questions in such a way that it enables our people to tell their truths, rather than have questions which will have been manifest in such a way as to only allow for the person who's making the statement or making the reply to answer in only certain ways. And that's easy.
But we've got to remember, this isn't research, it was an investigation. So wouldn't the best way to look at, sort of like have our response is to challenge every detail of this nonsense?
Of course.
Because hold on. But if we're not looking at it in detail, we're not going to challenge it. I mean, I'm quite tired of the diluting of any kind of investigation.
Yes.
That we always have to compromise. And if you look at this report again, I mean, there were things in here that they were talking about, revelations of just how stuck some white groups are, and as a result of the view of the recommendation should be, wherever possible, they designed to remove the obstacles for everyone rather than specific groups. But we are a specific group. And my argument is, should we not be looking at this in detail, taking the time to look at it in detail and challenge every aspect as opposed
Yes.
to saying, well, we're not surprised, I didn't expect. We have to challenge it, and we have to kind of make them answerable, as opposed to.
Okay, I agree.
That's my argument.
Okay, I agree. So we
Good
have
point.
to
Very
challenge
good
it.
point.
Yeah, we do have to challenge it. But what I'm saying is, it shouldn't be a standalone investigation. Why
Right.
can't we investigate for ourselves? We didn't commission the people to do it. Who chose them? It wasn't us.
Yeah.
Right? So there's the chess game, right? It was a government commissioned report or investigation. It was government. So who's the government? It's not us. So if they're going as the puppet masters,
but this is my whole point. To challenge it is to make them answerable to each one. And yes, it should be us that challenge that, but challenge every detail that's in here. Okay, and from that will come our own voices.
Right. I think you're both right. I think it doesn't have to be challenged, but you can challenge it, as advised, and writing our own report. The only 2 points that I would like to add to what you said. One is, in terms of Brother S's point about not giving it overdue attention, is there was so much hope from black and white people, after the George Floyd thing, that I think it's really dangerous for the government to have come back with something that even they themselves cannot stand by, because they know it's not punchy enough.
Yes.
And
point, yeah.
To mess with people, especially some of the young people, man, who are on the roads, who are talking about the experience of being maltreated by the police and other institutions. So come back with this, I think it's quite dangerous. The other point of it, which really underlies both what you are saying, is we need the government. Even if we go out there and we do a report, we need the government to at least look at it favorably, for the institutions, which they are saying are not racist, to actually start to respond differently on the outcome of that report, because we don't have the power to influence the system. There's going to be a debate tomorrow, apparently. I think Kindred has sent around a flyer for that. But we still need sympathizers. We still need people who think, actually, yeah, there are too many black youths being stopped by the police. So we are going to.
We need push. Yeah, we need critical thinking. We need critical analysis.
Yes.
And it's about unpicking it, exactly as Ebony said. It's about unpicking it and helping our young people, because the original question was about leadership, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It's about unpicking it and allowing our young people to see the areas where this report falls down, the many areas in which this report falls down, and to help them to give a voice to the things that this report is never going to, it doesn't even come close to.
But irrespective who writes it, is what I'm saying, isn't there have to be some kind of acknowledgement that we need the power base to be able to speak to it? And I'll give you an example. Yeah. So Brother S has raised a brilliant idea. Let's go and write our report. Who's going to pay for it? I tell you who's going to pay for it. All of these sports people are going to club together, and these celebrities, and they're just going to put 100 grand each. They're not going to go into the millions that they make every week. But guess what? Most of these celebrities don't do anything unless the government say, this is what we're going to do on this topic, whether it's about prostate cancer, whether it's about kicking racism out of sports. They don't show that sense of agency. They have the money, they can commission. There are loads of black people who have come out of universities with doctorates and all the rest of it, but they're uninterested until the government says that's our own people with money. So irrespective who writes the report, I'm saying that at some point the power brokers have to be sympathetic with what's been written for them to endorse it. And that's probably one of the things that we're struggling with, because it didn't take, even after George Floyd and people were on the streets, enough black people with money and knowledge were out there that said, we need a report into racism. We need something about institutions. But they didn't do it. And I think that is one of the saddest things about this report, that we can cuss the people who write it, we can cuss what's in it, but we don't have enough people with money and interest in our in our condition who are
Yeah,
willing to
to
step forward.
counter it, to
That's
counter it.
that's yeah, that's a fair point. We don't seem to be able to turn that momentum into tangible results, do we?
No. And even no, going with what Ebony said, some of the things that have been written in this report, it didn't look at us exclusively as what happens. Once you start talking about black issues, you have to talk about gay, you have to talk about
Yeah.
Asian, you have to talk about, and it
Mhm.
becomes so overloaded, it becomes useless.
Yeah.
And some of the comments that were made that, for instance, there was a sense of rebellion in the uprising in the United Kingdom in the early in the 80s, and that sense of rebelling resurfaced during the Black Lives Matter protest. And I think, how can Tony Sewell and people write something like what Kinch is saying? They don't go anywhere and experience racism. They don't have anybody getting stopped unduly in the streets. They don't see anybody getting any unfair treatment during COVID or before COVID. It's just ridiculous how they can write that. But the challenge now is, can we actually find someone some peoples with the money, the time, and the knowledge base who's going to come and write their report?
Okay. And maybe we could borrow from the head honcho who resigned on the release of the report.
Yes, man.
Right? You go, head honcho, what do you know that made you so appalled that you decided to fall on your sword? Right? You come now and head this counter report that we're going to require that shows another view, and one which is probably more in keeping with our lived experiences as people of color, right?
Yeah, man. Yes, they talk about Samuel Kasumi.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right? What did you know that made you have to say, nah, I'm not down with this. I've got to jump, right? Knowing that it's probably career suicide.
Damaging, yes.
Right? But there was something quite honorable about that. Now, I don't know in terms of what the background to that is, but my fantasy is that he couldn't sleep at night having read the report and thought, I'm part of this, right? And it's a lie.
Yeah.
So there may have been, I imagine, other people within that who also got their knuckles rapped when they said, hold on, this ain't reading like what the research that we gathered, right? And the people that be said, shut your mouth, it's going out. Thank you for your help, but now you need to leave it to us. I imagine that those kind of conversations were had, not just in the corridors of power, but in forums where these people were saying, well, ain't you going to include that bit? You don't think somebody in that whole report for that period of time said, hang on a minute, why are you bunching us all up as people of color in order for this to suit you under BAME, when actually we are people in our own right? You don't think anybody would have raised that the point? They would have been told to shut up. Listen, we got this. Thank you for pointing that out to us, but we've got this.
Yeah.
Now you need to move out the way, and that's what I'm saying about them handling us.
But you know something. There has to be a point where we, going back to Kindred's point about why some people aren't seeing things. How would you go into number 10 without thinking that number 10 will not be honorable in terms of what they've set out to do? You only have to look at how they deal, even if you're not someone who's deep into history and the kind of shenanigans that politics has. But just look at the Windrush scandal. That's a thing going on now.
Yes. So that's what I'm saying. In keeping with all of our experiences of these investigations that have come out, that we knew about at the time, that was echoed at the time, and that it's took 40, 50 years to surface now, where the evidence is indisputable, and they've had to say, all right, then maybe we did an error. They're glad for that, because 4 or 5 generations of people have died in that time. So in the first instance, asking, this is a bit like asking, quintessentially asking the police to police themselves, asking the government after the George Floyd thing and the Black Lives Matters uprising to police themselves and to write a report that's going to make them look bad. Do you really think they're going to do that?
Yeah.
Right? So that's what I'm saying about my lack of surprise.
Yeah.
And
Oh, yes, yes, yes,
but I
yes.
hear Sister Kindred's frustration, and to some degree, of course, I agree with that. But you know, the report shouldn't be kept in isolation. It shouldn't be kept as or thought of as there was one report and this is it. We should be able to counter that, and we have the power to do that. As to whether or not that might reach all of the ears that we want it to, well, you know, every what journey starts with the first step.
First step.
If we don't even think have any confidence in our own ability to gather that information to counter this thing here, then we might as well all roll over and die.
Oh,
And I'm
good
not
point.
suggesting that's what Sister Kindred was saying, right? I
You mean
think
you
that,
mean Ebony?
sorry, Sister Ebony was saying, but, so I think that in of itself, it was a report. It's more damaging for me than anything of that's progressive or positive about us, and all the more reason, therefore, why there should be counter reports done.
Okay. So listen to this then. Thank you for that. This is a comment from one of our listeners, Brother Ron. He said, I don't think we have a tradition of black leaders in the United Kingdom, Kosh. What we have are political spokesmen and women whose voices are heard or printed in the media when we suffer injustice. I think we tend to look more to the United States for leadership than in the past with civil rights and Black Power movement, and now with Black Lives Matter. So he's casting a whole shadow over the capabilities of people. But I think it's more universal than that. But that was his view. Ebony or Kindred, we have about 2 or 3 minutes left. Any final words?
Maybe it's about us becoming a bit more savvy about how we go about these things. And maybe there is some scope for social media to be better utilized to gather the kind of information that we need to gather and to present our case. It needs a different approach. And perhaps that's where the younger generation might lead us.
Okay. Okay.
Absolutely agreed. And I think our approach needs to be attached to a plan of action. Because we then turn into a talking shop, don't we? A real plan of action to address these inaccuracies and ensure our voices are heard, but there's action attached to it.
So are there any positives we can draw from the report? Or the way it was conducted?
No.
No? I think your point is a positive point, that they've done exactly what's written on the tin. They've behaved just as they were. They don't see race. They can't manage race. And so, in a sense, even though I was angered by some of the statements that were written in the report, we should feel some sense of positivity and confidence that we are our own saviors in this time. We're not going to get no help from them.
Right. Okay.
So from that side, I think it's positive.
Nothing if not consistent, are they?
Exactly.
Nothing if not consistent.
Yes.
Exactamente.
That bus is always on time, as Chris Rock says.
All right. I think final words, and then we're saying our goodbyes. It's less than a minute. Go ahead, Ebony.
Oh yeah, I was just going to say it's amazing that out of the half a dozen major inquiries that have been done over the decade, they've all found that there's evidence of institutional racism, but all of a sudden in 2021 there is none.
Yes. Well, maybe that's positive.
Be grateful for the utopia you find yourself in, Ebony.
Yeah. So yes, man. Until the next time.
Peace.
Be blessed.
Peace, people. Peace, people. Peace and love.
Take care and walk good.
All right.
Organize, sit down, reason and talk.
Included below are related links to this discussion. Please share, comment, and subscribe. And remember, talk the thing.
This show is sponsored by Sunrise Organic Sea Moss.
ORT, is a Glover Media production.